And I got thinking this week about the first message that I ever preached. I mean, ever. First message I ever preached, I was 17 years old. I was pretty far from God, and my youth pastor, a guy named Marvin Brubaker, had a kind of a clever idea about how he could kind of trap me into doing some ministry and try to kind of pull me out of where I was with my life. Here's a couple of pictures of what I looked like back then. I thought you'd get a kick out of this. That was me. And I think we got another one here. That was me a little bit later, maybe just as I was kind of heading into college. And but I'll tell you what. Go back to that first picture again. Yeah, that guy was not very close to God at all. But amazingly, there was this ministry in upstate New York called Word of Life. And if you've ever heard of Word of Life, it was started by a guy named Jack Wurtson in the 1940s. He was really a dynamic force, and Jack Wurtson had this idea that one of the ways that he would get kids involved with the Lord is he would get them serving. And boy, this was just tailor-made for me, because not just serving, but they would actually go in competitions. And so they'd have kids from different churches would get together and see who could do the best puppet ministry, and they'd get together and see who could do the best piano solo, and they'd get together and see who could do the best singing. And one of the competitions, if you can believe it seems crazy now, but one of the competitions was a preaching competition. Now, does anyone know about me that I'm kind of competitive about stuff? I don't know, humanly speaking, how that youth pastor could have ever got me to prepare a message if there wasn't this crazy thing called a preaching competition. I didn't care very much about preaching, but I cared a lot about competition. So I set out to make this just 10 minutes, and you would preach this little 10-minute message, and you'd preach it to maybe 15 or 20 pastors would sit there and critique you on your introduction, your conclusion, and how you kept people's interest and made your points from God's Word. And so my parents, honestly, they laughed when I heard, I'm going in this preaching competition. You're what? And I did. I drove down to a little city about an hour and a half away from where I was from. It was called Brantford, Ontario. It just happened to be where Pastor Rick is from. Actually, it was at the church that he grew up in. But he wasn't there that day. But I went in this competition, and lo and behold, if I didn't win. And that doesn't really say very much about me as much as maybe it says about what the competition was like, if you know what I'm saying. But then I ended up preaching that same message at my church to our youth group. Then later on, I ended up preaching that exact same message at a national competition in upstate New York at Word of Life. Then I preached that message to youth groups. And I never only had one message, man. I just kept preaching it over and over and over, same message. And here's the incredible thing. The message was on the exact same thing as what I want to talk to you about today. Thankfully, by God's grace, I've learned a wee bit about this subject since then. We're not going to pull that one out of the file, I promise. But the message was on what we've been singing about today. It was on glorifying God. It was on glorifying God. And was God ever gracious? I had no idea that when I did that message, I actually got help with the outline from my uncle, who was a seminary student at Dallas Seminary at the time. I wouldn't have even known how to do that, but I did this message on glorifying God, and I had no idea at the time how important that subject really is. And I wonder if you know how important that subject really is. We're going to try to bring some